Hi, I'm Shelton, an Oklahoma 4-H STEMist, and you're watching Day 5 of our COVID camp with special guest speaker Pamela Stokes.
My name is Pamela Stokes. I'm an Associate Director here at University Health Services, and I'm also a registered nurse. And I am the liaison between Payne County Health Department and the Oklahoma State Department of Health and Oklahoma State University.
Awesome. So my first question for you today is, how can kids protect themselves from COVID-19?
That's a great question. So there's a lot unknown still about COVID-19, but what we do know is that socially distancing works, wearing a mask works, and then you should do everything you probably already know to do. Wash your hands, keeping your space nice and clean. But we know the two things that really work are minimizing how often we touch our face and what touches our face. So that can be done by washing your hands and wearing a mask.
Also, what advice do you have for young students that are possibly going to be going back to school in the fall?
So the advice that I have is that, there's a new normal. So we have to kind of learn to adjust a little bit. I think that it's okay that you're getting out and you're getting an education and that you're going to be around other people if you do it smart. And what I mean by doing it in a smart way is, following the CDC guidance. We have lots of physicians right now, doctors and researchers who are looking into how we can protect ourselves. We don't know a ton about this virus yet. But what we do know is that if we stay at a safe space from those that are around us, and what I mean by socially distancing is 6 feet or more, and we wear a mask, that those droplets that go into the air when we cough, and when we sneeze, when we talk, when we sing, those are going to be so far away, and you're going to have a barrier on when you wear a mask, and so most likely you're not going to contract the virus that way. So you can still come to college and do lots of fun things. You can avoid areas where you're in an enclosed space with lots of people. You can do things outside. You can do things in large areas, and just make sure that you're staying healthy and washing your hands. And as long as you're doing that, I think it's okay to go on with your activities.
Can you tell us what some of the symptoms of COVID-19 are, and if we are showing any of those symptoms, what would be the next step that we do?
Absolutely. So typical symptoms, and what I mean by typical is we see a fever first, and what I mean by fever is a temperature of 100.4 or greater. And we usually see a cough or some shortness of breath with that. Now, with that said, we've had some other things happen. We've had lots of people that are reporting that they can't taste or smell anything. We've had a small group of people reporting that every once in a while they have headaches or digestive issues with that. But then another thing to keep in mind is that with the younger population, the CDC is looking at individuals who are 18 to 35 years old. A lot of times they are asymptomatic, or they may have a headache for a few days and they didn't really know that they were sick with COVID because they didn't have the typical symptom. So I think the things to be aware of is if you're sick for any reason, if you don't feel good for any reason, we highly encourage you to get tested because you just never know. And testing at this point is free. It's free through University Health Services and also through Payne County Health Department.
Is it possible for your pet to get COVID-19?
That is a great question. I don't know if I'm the expert on that per se, but what I will tell you is there's just a lot that's unknown. So I would be lying to you if I said that I haven't seen reports that they think that is true. But I also would be lying to you if I told you that I knew 100% that we could spread it to our pets. So I think that a lot of researchers feel the same way right now, and that it's so new that we're not sure.
How do you think we can provide support for a family member or a friend or somebody we know who might have COVID-19 without putting ourselves in any type of danger?
So I think the hard thing with COVID-19 is that whether you were positive or whether you were deemed an exposure, it involves that 14-day quarantine. And so that doesn't seem like very long, but that's a long time to be in your room and not talking to people. So a Zoom platform is great. I think giving them a call every once in a while just to check on their mental health and make sure they're okay, that's a great thing. You can do it through FaceTime or through a Zoom platform or some other platform just to make sure that everything's going okay. I think that you should encourage them and let them know that they can do it and they can make it. So for their own safety and for others, And then probably just to check on them and see if they need anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with dropping off food or a care package as long as you're not spending time in their room with them. So I think checking on them is probably number one.
Do you have any further tips or information that you would just like to share with us about COVID-19?
Well, I think for so many of us, this is just a really scary time, and I understand that because things seem to be changing weekly. We have new numbers weekly, we have new information weekly, and I think we're all going to have to hold hands through this. So for now, the two things we know, like I said before, are socially distancing and wearing a mask. And I think as long as we go through this together, that other things may change. But for now, that's the best we can do, and we should just support each other through that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pamela, for joining me and talking to us a little bit about what we can do to help stop the spread of COVID-19 and help others who we might know that have it.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Don't forget to go and fill out the Microsoft form questions to talk to us on Flipgrid. For more information, go to 4h.okstate.edu, or for more information regarding COVID, go to cdc.gov.